Well, happy Friday night, everybody. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It's great to see you. Happy Friday. Oh, gosh. Doesn't it seem like the holidays were a million years ago now? I don't know about you, but it is only, what is it, January 3rd, and I feel like I am so behind with everything right now. It's maybe time to take that hot minute, right? Cheers, my dears. I'm having water tonight. I am just fine, still fine. But I'm wondering if I have that sneaky cold slash ailment, same as last year and I think the year before, where I was just sick for like weeks without anything really like coming to a head. Do you know what I mean? Just water, but cheers, my dears. Water out of this very pretty tinsel cup from Santa's Village in New Hampshire. It's great to see you all tonight. Welcome back. Let me see who's on. I want to say hello to all my buddies here. I want to say good morning to Gail. Good to see you. Crescent Moon Pie. Hello. You're early. Well, early is great. We are here. I was a minute late. I'm sorry about that. I couldn't decide what I wanted to drink, and then I just decided water, right? Melissa, great to see you. You're getting yourself all comfy with your hooking project. Oh, I've been putting out more of the Louise May Alcott's. I literally, right before I got ready for the show, I was writing the chapter for today. If you're following the Louise May Alcott story, which is a fictional story that I'm writing, it's basically a holiday story that goes Christmas into New Year. It's for fun. It's like a choose your own adventure, but we're calling it an Electra Entanglement. We did a Jane Austen themed one last winter. This year we're doing Louise May Alcott. I brought the storytelling to the U.S. And it is fiction, but it's a lot of fun, and a lot of the stuff that is kind of embedded in it is based on her real life and her contemporaries, and it's exciting for me to think about them. And I've researched and read a lot about the transcendentalists and that group of writers. American Bloomsbury is my favorite book on that subject, but it's been so much fun putting that story together. It's a little bit of a not a thriller, but there are some suspenseful moments, very benign and gentle. But I have to say, you all have been throwing me for a loop, because if you remember, just to stay ahead of the ball, I drew the pictures for it that would be the designs for it before Christmas, so that I was in good shape. And somehow the story has taken a couple turns that I wasn't expecting, and a secondary character, like a co-star, has come into the story, who I never planned on having. It just worked out that way. And I guess it's my own fault, because I saw the story going in different directions. So I'm kind of scrambling now to be sure that I have patterns. These are rug hooking patterns, potentially that go along with the storyline as kind of souvenirs if they strike you. And I'm kind of struggling at this point to get the patterns to match the story. This is what happens when you put the cart before the horse, isn't it? But I wasn't trying to have time later, so I'm kind of adapting some stuff. And but it is fun. It is fun being thrown for a loop. I feel like I'm really sort of on my toes, on tenterhooks right now, when I'm looking at the voting coming in on YouTube, through email, on Facebook, and all the places that you're sending me your A or your B. And it is funny because I've been surprised a couple of times. So it's been a lot of fun. I hope you're joining in. If you're wondering how you can pick up that storyline, it started, I think it started before Christmas, right? Or right around Christmas, maybe Christmas night or something. And they're all, if you're in our Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, they're all in there. They're also in Patreon. For Patreon members, you're getting the story first with all of the patterns as free PDF downloads. So you can just peel them right off and transfer them to whatever size you want. Otherwise, they are appearing in the store, the Ribbon Candy Hooking store. But I always want to give a special shout out and a special thank you to all of the people who support this channel, this brand on Patreon, Ribbon Candy Hooking. Couldn't do it without you. Really appreciate it. And I love to show my appreciation this time of year doing fun projects like this one. It's been a lot of fun, and we have I think maybe two or three more episodes to go. Cheryl, great to see you. Cheers, my dears. It's pajamas and finishing a project time. Oh, that sounds great. Becky agrees with you. She says, yep, comfy pajamas and hooking project here too. Hello, everyone. Hello to you, Becky. Happy Friday night. Crescent Moon Pie. Oh, hi, Melissa. What are you working on? I was wondering the same thing. Melissa moves so fast. I was wondering what she was working on too. And Crescent Moon Pie says, I'm working on Hivemind, excellent, and painting my cotton fabric with Dynaflow. Amazing, because we were just talking about that, right? From Jacquard. Never used it before, experimenting while I wait for mail order fabric to arrive. That sounds amazing. I'm so excited. You know, I know that a lot of you are doing the pattern Hivemind, which is a free pattern. It should be in the description of this video tonight still. I know a lot of you are doing it for the next Magpie Times magazine, which will be coming out in March. This one we are getting set up a little bit earlier, so I'm saying for a deadline for content, if you're submitting an article to the next Magpie Times, it'll be the 5th issue. We are now in our 2nd year because this is a quarterly. If you are submitting something, be shooting for, please, February 1st so that we don't get late. We got late last time, and I wasn't able to offer it through ribbon candy hooking because I didn't want you getting it much later than everyone else was getting it. It just wouldn't be fair. So it was out of sync last time. So we want to have the deadline be a little bit sooner so that we absolutely have time to put it together before it's a 4-alarm fire. I worked on mine far in advance. Let me show you. This is the cover, which you may have seen. You know, the cover's not going to pop because I think I still have the green screen on. Sorry about that. The background to this piece, which is called Telling the Bees, is a crazy kind of dusty blue. It's lots of different colors with lots of purple in there. Not really much green. There's green in the leaves. That's coming out as gray. Yeah, none of the colors are coming out good. I'm going to have to check that again. I was going to use my green screen. As you can see, I'm just in my studio tonight. But if you look at what I posted in our Facebook group or on my Facebook page, this pattern is called Telling the Bees, and this is the next cover for Magpie Times. This is one of my favorite pieces that I've done myself. This is ribbon candy hooking design, but I mean, I hooked it myself. And I gotta say, I really love it. I love all the little bees buzzing around. Everyone who's ordering the pre-order of this issue of Magpie Times is getting tonight and every night between now and, you know, the time the magazine comes out, a free PDF of this pattern, Telling the Bees. So when you have a PDF, you do it whatever size you want. I think this is 20 tall, something like that, maybe 18, but it's something like that. And I gave the two women sort of Victorian dresses, a little evocative of like bee colors. Colors are not coming through really great with the green screen on. Sorry about, you know me and the green screen are not great bedfellows at all. But it does have a lot of green in it, and the background is like a funny blue. So look at the picture, look at the other picture of it because it's got lots of colors in it. It's got some really good spring colors, but the women's dresses are meant to be a little bit evocative of like bees. So kind of honey colors, mustard colors, that kind of thing, black accents. And I really love it. And I'm sure you know this already, but the custom of telling the bees it goes back to, like, it's not a New England custom, it's a European custom. But the idea was always that if you had bees, like living, in this case, in a hive or a skep or whatever you want to call it, and there was a death in the family, if you did not tell the bees, it was a superstition. If you did not tell the bees, they would like do their best to wreak havoc on your life. So there would be consequences to not telling the bees. You had to tell the bees when someone died. It was just one of these things that people really believed, and I'm sure some people still do believe it. But it is a famous expression, and more and more often I hear about telling the bees, maybe because there's such a push to save the bees and all of that lately. So I hope you'll look out for that. I just put the link for the next magazine out just now, like an hour ago before the show started. So that will be a lot of fun. Now, Hivemind is the free pattern that I put out before Christmas to say, hey, listen, who wants to do this pattern? We can put them together like we did with the, G's Bend patterns. Remember in the Country Fair issue? Hivemind is similar. There's tons of people doing Hivemind. I think there's maybe 200 to 300 people who have downloaded Hivemind. That's a lot. But, how is she going to fit that many Hiveminds into one magazine? Well, not everybody's going to finish their Hivemind. That's a little bit challenging, right? Does that push your buttons a little bit? Did that make you sit up and go, well, I'm going to finish mine? I know you're going to finish yours. I hope a lot of you finish yours. I think we will have a lot of finished pieces. I'm going to guess just I like guessing lately. I like playing Prices Right with you. I'm going to say 40 to 50 people. I bet we'll finish it by January 1st and we'll go into a gallery section. It will be a large section of this magazine. But man, it's going to be wonderful to see the different techniques that people use, how many people do hooking, how many people do quilting or needlepoint or kind of a fusion, different sort of collage techniques. It'll be so much fun to see the colors that you do. Each person's is going to be a jewel, special and different, and it will be wonderful inspiration, because in these situations when we're looking at like a survey of the same pattern, we are looking at them apples to apples. So unlike looking at a rug with lots of flowers that are beautifully and realistically done, you go, oh, that's so good. I don't know if I'm going to ever be able to do that. I know I won't. And then you look at something else that's very primitive and you say, oh, that's beautiful too. How do you compare them? When you're looking at the same pattern, right? It's apples and apples. It's not about good, better, best. It's just like, oh, I like that color palette too. You know, that's interesting. I'm going to remember that color palette for one of my future projects. Oh, I like that technique. I think I could do that. So it'll be a lot of fun looking at that. And if you're thinking about other articles that you might contribute or stuff for the gallery that's just sort of a general springtime theme, make sure that you get them in by February 1st so we have lots of time to perfect this issue and get it out on time. Okay, let me catch up. April, great to see you in Illinois. Happy Friday. Isn't it weird it's Friday too? It's so confusing. I feel like it's Tuesday because the kids went back to school on Thursday. I'm so out of it. Carol, great to see you in chilly Northford. Great to see you. Remy, great to see you. Welcome. I happen to have something of yours in the show tonight because of I had to put the piece of yours into the show, of course. Great to see you. And Crescent Moon Pie, hi April, I can see you from my house. You're also in Illinois. That sounded creepy for a minute. I love it. I love it when you find each other though. Karen, great to see you. Mild and clear in Black Forest, Colorado. Good news. Mom, great to see you. We had such a good day together. I'll tell you about it in just a minute. Gail, welcome in Australia. Ryan, great to see you. Happy first Friday of the year. You're right. That it's so important, isn't it, to mark these days. Peace and love to you too. Wishing you all such a happy, peaceful, inspirational year, right? Great to see you. Sandy, great to see you too. Happy New Year to you too. And Judy, you are basting hexagons. You are good. You are quilting your background with the hexies. Great to see you. EPP Baby Quilt, my daughter. Oh, so not for Hivemind. Could be for Hivemind too, since you got the hexagons going, right? Rita, great to see you. Oh, you've been working away on your Polynesian punch. I love that pattern. I can't wait to see it, but no rush. You are good. Melanie, happy Friday night from Washington State. Great to see you. Happy New Year to you too. Linda B in New Jersey. Happy first cocktail night. You're right. Happy first cocktail night of 2025 in chilly New Jersey. Great to see you. Apple Slump. You know, Melissa, it was Louisa May Alcott actually called the house Apple Slump. So I didn't make that part up. That's how she referred to it. She was always super disparaging about the house because it was so old when the family bought it. It wasn't really something to be proud of, and it was kind of tipping and sagging and doing the things that old houses do. And those were her words, but I love them. So I use them again and again in the story. Sage Gardens and Art Studio. Hello in Missouri. Welcome. Happy Friday. It's great to see you. Dave in Toronto. Great to see you. You are having meat lovers, pizza, and coffee, porter, beer. Oh, you're killing me. I'm trying so hard to diet. Those are two of my favorite things in the whole world. Oh, come on, Crescent Moon Pie. You have got to finish. You've got all the paints going. Everything's going well. You have you have 1 month. You have 1 month to work on it. Sorry about that. You're going to get it done. I know you will. It's going to be beautiful. Just pace yourself. And yeah, I know you're going to get it done. And I can't wait to see it. Sage Guard. Oh, from Richard and Ruth. Great to see you. Welcome back. And Goretti, are you there with Mike? Hello in Ontario. Great to see you. Joy, Happy New Year to you too. Welcome back. Judy says, ooh, while I'm doing hexagons, it's a great idea. Yeah, the whole background is hexagons. So that's something to think about. Welcome back, everybody. I just have on another personal note, I just want to show you what I was doing today because I had such a wonderful day. I was with my mom today. The kids were at school, but Teddy took the school bus home. Everything worked out. I was at my mom at her church, the UU church in Hartford. It's on Bloomfield Ave in Hartford. Mom, I got to show you a picture of you because you look so cute. We hung her art show today. Her and her friends who are in their like local art group there around Hartford. All of the buddies have been painting for years, and it has culminated in an art show that's 30 something pieces at the UU church, the Unitarian Universalist Church in Hartford, the one on Bloomfield Ave. And it is such a beautiful show. We hung all of the pieces today. There's my mom there in that picture. And then we went to have lunch. It was a great day for buddies. It was a great day for art because that show will be hanging, Mom, for a couple of months, right? And it's a good reason to stop by and look at all of those beautiful paintings, many of which are for sale. It was such a lot of fun and a privilege to be able to handle so many beautiful pieces of art today. And it was wonderful to be with my mom and spend some time together. Crescent Moon says, LOL, I'm trying. I'm giving it my all. There you go. Thread, needle, scissors. Heidi from Springfield, Branson. Great to see you, Missouri. Great to see you. Welcome back, everybody. So while we were having our busy weekend, we were looking at some of the rugs that popped up over the holidays on eBay. Some of the hooked rugs that popped up as antique vintage rugs. We did 2 episodes this week looking at some of those new rugs and talking about value and is it worth it? Is it special? Is it different? Is it overrated? Is it underpriced? What's going on? We had 2 fun episodes with that, and right in the middle of running those shows, I received the latest copy of Rug Hooking magazine. So I had to just hold for a couple of days to get it ready to run a show, and I thought, well, tonight's the perfect night to look at it because we're not really pressed for time on Friday night cocktail nights. So I thought, let's look at this magazine together, see some of the articles that are in it. I know some of you get them a little bit later, so I'm not going to do a total spoiler. I always want to make it so that you know what's in the magazine, you know what kind of content you can expect to find in this issue of the magazine, and I hope that you will subscribe to it and support this magazine, my magazine, Atha magazine, all of the different periodicals that relate to our very small craft, right? They are all worthy of supporting, and they are all very different. This is another exceptionally pretty issue. My mom says, what a wonderful day and what a cyclone of energy and art expertise to have by my side. I just take control. I have to take control of things. Once I understand the rules, I just have to take control because it's the fastest way. If, when you're doing stuff like hanging a show, thank you for the compliment, Mom. You know, there's no point in being polite, right? And just kind of waiting. I'm just kind of, all right, this is how we do it, baby. Let's do it. Let's get it done. And we did get it hung very, very quickly. It was a lot of fun, and it was easy peasy. It was my pleasure. So this is a great issue of Rug Hooking magazine. This is what the cover looks like right here. Let me come back down here. Hold on, I'm changing slideshows. Oops, no, that is, okay, you know what? Let me keep that on for a second. Wait a minute. This is the cover. This is what the magazine will look like. So the issue of Magpie Times that will be coming out in March is Busy Bees. The theme is Busy Bees, but it functions as the spring issue. So send in any of your spring stuff for the gallery. If you have anything that is bees, butterflies, pollinators in general, send it in. It's perfect for this issue. Last year, the spring issue, do you remember, was historic gardens. So we had a lot with flowers and gardens. And this year, gardens, yes, flowers, yes. But I wanted to put a slightly different spin on the season and do insects, bees and insects. So this is what the cover will look like. And this gives you a way more accurate depiction of the colors on the cover. There are some it has a sort of hit or miss feel. So in the woman's dress on the right, there are some color changes, right? That's not your eyes because I ran out of material. Old school style. I completely ran out of material. I reworked the sleeves on the dresses also because I ran out of material over and over and over. And man, it is so much fun to fool around with color changes when you have to do it that old school style and you have to make it work and you just don't have anymore. I spent a lot of time online looking at bigger rug hooking businesses than mine for the wools that I had run out of. And I thought, you know what, forget it. This is rug hooking, right? I'm supposed to grab something similar and make it work. And in the end, that's what I did. And I think I like it more for that, to tell you the truth. So that's what the cover looks like of Magpie Times Upcoming. This is what the cover of this issue of Rug Hooking Magazine looks like. This is volume 36, number 4. So this is January, February 2025. Honestly, can you believe it? I mean, honestly, I feel like it was just like a year ago that I was panicking about the year ticking over to 2000 and thinking the world was going to end. Do you remember that? I remember that like it was like 1 or 2 years ago. I can't believe that it was 25 years ago. Oh, let's stop with that before I get stomach cramps. So in this issue, you can see the cover is telling you some of the main articles that are here. They are all beautiful articles. The lead article, Impressionist Portraits in Wool. The image on the cover, which is going to be the first image we look at tonight, refers to that article. It is an exceptional article. But as usual, I won't show you all of the content or even one complete article, because I do consider that a spoiler alert, and I do hope that you support the magazine. It is a great cover, isn't it? It's so charming, and there are we'll look at this piece without the editing around it, without the text of the complete piece as it is. But you know, the thing about, well, let's hold on that thought. I was gonna start talking about Impressionism. Let's hold on that for just a minute. That's going to be a big article, right? Big formidable article in this magazine. It's a very strong feature. But then we've got some other great articles. Punched French press cozies and mugs. French press, you know, to make coffee. So cozies for that. That could also make little rug mugs, or you could wrap them around a pencil cup or something like that. A stash busting primitive oriental rug. That's another beautiful article. We're going to look at that. Using photographs and rug hooking. That's the article that Ramiz pictured the pieces in with the photographs. We're going to look at that too. And there's a few other features and shorter articles in this issue that are all fabulous, right? So let's start. Let's dig in there and let's start. Let me see what the first image is. I think it's the dog, and that would be the most sensible place to begin. There we go. So I'm going to open up, if you've got yours already, open it up and let's look at it together. Now, there are always a lot of advertisements, and you know I'm going to skip right over those because I don't consider that content, right? It's necessary to keep the magazine going, but I'm going to skip right over those. So starting right with this article, let me first talk about this image, and then I'll pan back and we'll look at the whole article as a you know, what the intention is and what to expect. So this piece is called Coco, like Coco Chanel. It's a 19-inch square that is done in number 4 to number 7 cut. So 4, 5, 6, 7. Done with wool, yarn, jersey, meaning stretch material, and dyed seam binding. And dyed seam binding on linen. Oh, interesting. And okay. Okay, so maybe the dyed seam binding is the border, perhaps? Could be. Designed and hooked by Tamara Pavich, a name we know and love, right, of Council Bluffs, Iowa, 2023. So this past 2 years ago. It's not this past year anymore, is it? Coco. So what a precious piece. Of this piece, she says, let me see. Hold on, I'm just paraphrasing and scanning. The only liberties I took with color were turning up the autumn to a brighter orange and interpreting the highlights and values of purple. So I'm right in the middle of the article here. Now, what Tamara is saying, let me see, is this article written by Tamara? Yes, it is. So this article is actually called Risk and Reward, Capturing a Likeness with Impressionist Color, text by Tamara Pavich, and photography by the respective artists. So in this case, this piece is by Tamara, the photograph is by her, and the piece again is called Coco. So what's going on in this photo, right? Because when you look at it, your immediate impression might be, oh, there's a lot of color substitutions in there. God, that's hard to do, isn't it? It's actually not hard to do. And in this one, I mean, it takes some thought, it takes some thoughtfulness and some deliberate choices, right? But this one sentence really says it all. The only liberties I took with color were turning up the auburn to a brighter orange. In other words, Coco is a little bit darker, but she's kind of amped the voltage on the color up from a darker auburny brown color to a brighter orange. So probably still color family, but just amped up. And interpreting the highlights and values of purple. So when you look at cocoa, right, and you look at, let's just focus on cocoa for now, and then we'll look at the full piece. When you look at cocoa, it's like, okay, the dog is sort of the color that I would expect, but the ear is purple. What's going on there? It is just the one color where the highlight would be, right? Because you can see that it's very light and bright in the northwest corner. That's where the light's coming from, quite literally. So Coco has a highlight, has light shining on her little head, and that's where the light is hitting her shoulder, the side of her snout, her ear. So instead of turning those into the lighter orange color, as a substitution, Tamra has used the color blue instead of auburn, but the same tonal value that it would be, because that blue is actually lighter than the orange that we're seeing. If you put them side by side, it's lighter. It's a much lighter color. So it still reads as a highlight, but there's been a color shift. There's been one color shift. So the auburn dog with this one highlight, it's not like the examples that we sometimes see online where you see like a woman's face, right? And it's broken up almost cubist style into 50 different panes or planes where, you know, almost like a stained glass window, and each one is done differently, but the tonal value has still been considered, so the shadows fall in the right places. That's more complicated because we're talking about an unrealistic or unnatural color substitution of 50 colors. In this case, the dog is shifted a little bit and there's really just the one color shift. But doesn't it make a remarkable difference when you look at it? You say to yourself, ooh, interesting and artsy. What's going on here? Because when you think of it, the background is hooked in colors that are quite realistic and expected. In fact, the sort of burnt, kind of crispy looking leaves on the right, that is the color that I would think the dog would be. The dog is just a bit brighter. His color is turned up. Like when you're listening to a song in the car and you say, God, that's got too much bass. People are going to think I'm listening to like a boom box. And you find if you can, you find where on your car you can change the levels and say, I'll take more treble. No, thank you on so much bass. And you just fine tune it. Same thing with color. It works exactly the same way. And just because you're making an artistic and sort of pop art, Andy Warhol feeling color substitution with one or two colors, it doesn't mean that you have to put your foot down on the gas for the whole piece. Certainly you can keep the background, in this case, quite realistic. And I actually think it helps the composition along because there is a lot of realism. We're grounded in the familiarity of the colors that we're seeing in the background. But up front, Coco really pops, right? The colors are very exciting. It is a very pop art look in an otherwise quite traditional Impressionist background. Now, why is it Impressionist at all? Why am I saying the word Impressionist? Because the title is called Risk and Reward. It does refer to being an article on the use of Impressionist color and Impressionism as a style within rug hooking, which is very difficult to do. Impressionist simply means that instead of getting a realistic look or an attempt at a realistic look, you are getting an impression. You are getting the artist's impression. There is not an attempt at realism. It is an impression. It is the scene as seen in the head of the artist. It is that person's impression. That's what you see. And that is what, in a nutshell, what Impressionism is. So this article is really beautiful. And there's quite a few artists who are in here represented with, again, I'm not going to show you everything, but lots of nice pieces where they're talking about illustrating in an Impressionist style, people, pets. These are all amazing examples. Let me show you the next one I've got. Sorry if you can hear Buttons, the dog barking. It's almost like he knows that we're talking about Coco. This is a really interesting one for me too. And as usual, I feel I have to say, I'm not picking ones that I think are good, better, best. I just picked ones rather randomly that struck me immediately, and it doesn't mean that I think the other ones are bad or less, right? Never, ever does it mean that. I just picked a couple because I thought, ooh, different. It gives me talking points that we maybe don't talk on every day or every episode. So this is another dog, but it couldn't be any more different. This dog is called Root, Root. This is a 22-inch square as opposed to a 19-inch square. So similar size. This spans the range of number 3 cut to number 6 cut wool, paisley, sari silk, and vintage crystals on linen. Wow. Oh, we might have to, I think we're going to have to blow this up a little bit. Designed and hooked by Christy Hawes of Kansas City, Missouri, 2023. April says, that beautiful poodle, unconventional and absolutely beautiful colors. You know, it is super unconventional. It is absolutely striking for several reasons. Now, these standard, I think it's a standard poodle. These standard poodles have such a human sort of countenance, don't they? The way that their faces look at you is so sort of haunting. It's the look, it's the eyes, it's like that. It's so easy to relate to these dogs. You can tell they're such highly intelligent dogs. Not that Coco wasn't, not at all. She looked like a sporty kind of a dog, right? Root has a very different look. One of the interesting things about Root is the very serious, almost human gaze, right? She's looking right at us. Lots of color substitutions in this one. But the interesting thing about this one is that most of the colors that are present are a similar tonal value. We're not getting super dark darks or light lights. We're getting a few. We're getting a few sort of hot spots where it's very dark or very light. But in general, the sort of baseline is that it is kind of mid-tone. These are all very unexpected colors. We're looking at mauves. We're looking at a lot of patterned material. I will stretch it open for you in a minute. We're looking at a lot of neutral. We're looking at a lot of brown, gray, right? And because it's grounded in so many neutrals, the other colors that are around it, they're not primary colors. They're unusual midtones of unusual colors that we don't see every day. It really pops. The fact that Root's little snout, little face is kind of darkened. It's got the dark shadows on the side, brings the face forward. The hair is all kind of color substituted. So it makes it really interesting to look at. I'm going to stretch it open just a bit. Oops, wait a minute, wrong one. Hang on. No, that was the right one. Come on, Mama. We got this. Let's look at this a bit closer up. Now remember, this is a photo of a photo, so we're not going to get incredible detail because I'm taking a picture of a magazine, right? But let's look at it a little bit closer up so that you can see the different sizes of loops, the placement of the different colors. Forget about what color it is. Is it red? Is it mustard? Is it blueberry? Forget that, right? Just forget it. On the dog, whatever the reference is, if it's a photograph or whatever, I'm guessing it is a photograph. If it's dark in the photograph, choose a dark color. I'm going to put blueberry in. I'm going to put the dark indigo in. If it's light, choose a light color. I'm going to put the more limey green or the more lemony colors. You just go along with your reference in these cases, and you can print a picture out in grayscale so that you're only looking at darks and lights and looking for hot spots, right? The parts that are the most dark and the most light to pop, because you're going to need contours, right? As long as you have the shape right, you've got the really dark darks and the light lights in the right places, it's going to work. Oh, Catherine, good to see you. We're just warming up here. As long as you've got the darks in the right place and the lights in the right place, it's going to work. If you're thinking to myself, I'm not that good with color, I just couldn't do this. Yes, you can. Just get a photo, print it out in black and white, separate your colors. And if you don't trust yourself, get one of those red film things. They're in the quilting section. It's like a red film, right, inside a plastic frame. It's very easy to identify tonal values through the red film, right? And it's right in the quilter store section of Joann's or Michael's, whatever. But if you don't trust yourself, do that. You know, you can trust yourself though, right? I promise you, you can. You know what dark looks like. You know what light looks like. And if you separate your darks and lights and then you suddenly think to yourself, okay, there's my darks, there's my lights. Gosh, I have so many that are in the middle. You know what? Most of them are in the middle, right? Most of them will be in the middle. So you've done it right. So just trust yourself. If you're looking through your rag bag of all your middle shades, right? If you want to get really fancy, you could further divide them, right? Instead of just dark, light, middle, you could divide them into like 4, like middle dark, middle light, or you could divide into more categories. It depends on how fine you want to get. But in the case of this piece, I would say a lot of this piece is done in darks and middle tones, and it works great. I'm going to bring it back down to you again. I love this article because I think it demystifies the idea of doing, semi-realistic designs, meaning portraits, whether they're animal portraits or people portraits. It demystifies the idea of doing this kind of a composition in a way where you're taking like kind of leaps and bounds with color. It does feel like a scary arena to enter, but all of the examples in this article, I think, prove very simply that it's not impossible. It might be something that takes getting used to doing. But this article is very well written, right? And there's different people sort of contributing their own pieces, and everybody is handling color, highlights, and graphic details in different ways. So each artist is working very differently. There's something to learn from everybody in this article. In this case, this is Ann Hoffman of Fairway, Kansas. This is from 2024. It's called Frances on Plaid. This is small. It's a 9-inch square, number 3 through number 7 cut wool on linen, designed and hooked by Ann Hoffman. So this is really very different than the ones we've seen. Karen says she loves the textural look of the fabric in the poodle. This is such an interesting piece because, number one, it's a small piece, right? So difficulty level very high. When you've got a larger piece, there's more room for fooling around, isn't there? When you've got larger dimensions, you can afford to fool around, to make mistakes, to hide mistakes. But when you've got a small piece, right, more or less every loop has to be pretty correct if you're going to pull off tricks like the tricks that are here. So the spin on Impressionism in this piece, let's just focus on the dog Frances first, is the color substitution, right? There's some real prestige here because we're looking at some fairly complex color substitution. We're looking at mostly lights in this case with a few brights and some well-chosen darks, right? We're not seeing a lot of middle tones like with Root, right? We're seeing lights, and we're seeing the purple functioning as the dark. So very different than the last two examples. The dark is very localized here, right? It's under the nose, just under the chin, and around that eye on the way we're looking at it on the left. The rest of it, with very little variation, is light. This is a light colored dog, right? It's not a gray dog or a mid-tone dog. This is a light colored dog. But there are still some wonderful, spontaneous, and I'm sure they weren't spontaneous, but they feel spontaneous, very colorful color substitutions. And if you're thinking, how did Ann Hoffman choose the purple? You would have to ask Ann, right? Or maybe that's in the article because I haven't read the whole article. How did Ann choose like the sage green color and the rosy pink color? Again, you would have to ask Ann to get a specific answer, but I would say the whole point of this piece is to play with color. So you want to really stretch and use as many different colors as you can. Now on a piece like this, she's only got a handful of colors that are not lights or darks. She's only got a handful, and she really reached for some colors that were quite different. She's not doing matchy match, right? She's not sticking with a specific color palette. I get the feeling that she said, how about this really dark mustard here? How about this dusty rose here? How about this sage green here? And she probably hooked other colors in to try and found, I don't know, it's not striking. I don't know, but that's what I would do if I was hooking this piece. I see some periwinkle and lilac, right? I see some very light pinks that are substituting as white, right? Essentially, the dog is like light brown or white, and all of those colors are functioning as whites. But there are some rainbow colors in there. And when you're working in the Impressionist style, you can do that. It's your impression, right? It gives a lot of life to Frances, the dog. Now, when I first looked at this piece, I thought that Frances was hooked, excuse me, into a piece of plaid wool, because you know how you can hook into wool, particularly plaids and things like that, because they tend to be looser wovens, right? You can hook into anything that's a woven if you can. And it's so realistic that I thought it was plaid, and I thought, oh man, she hooked Frances right into the plaid. And then I looked again and saw it is hooked. Now that is difficult too. I have to say, I would have to ask Anne, but I wonder what was more difficult, hooking that plaid, because plaid is tricky. You cannot fall asleep at the wheel when you're hooking plaid, can you? Or you will screw it up, right? You'll go one over and you'll go, damn it, the yellow line's not straight. Oh, and you have to take parts out. It is so tricky hooking plaid. I would think that both of these things are probably, for me, would be equally difficult. Hooking Frances the way that Anne has done, it looks tricky, right? We've broken down how it's done, but doing it, choosing the right colors, experimenting until you get that fine balance of bright poppy colors, like pop art colors, and a dog that still looks like the dog. That it's a balance, and I don't think anybody who hooks in the Impressionist style ever gets it right out of the gate. And I think the word right is probably a moving target in and of itself, because if you hooked your Frances, whoever your buddy is, if you have a dog or a cat or a guinea pig or whatever, if you hooked your subject, right, in person, right, you might say, God, it is not successful. I'm not happy with the way that it's turned out. I might look at it and say, wow, that's a life-changing composition right there, right? So we might feel differently about our impressions in each other's impressions of their subject. That's what Impressionism is, right? When it first came onto the scene, people did not like it. The public didn't like it. Critics liked it more than the public liked it. But it was so very different than what had come before, right? All of the sort of tonalism and the amount of realism that we had seen leading up to that was just a stark contrast. And when people looked at Impressionism, they said, what a mess. It's wrong. Everything's wrong, right? And they couldn't get their feet under them enough to look at it again and really think, but it makes me feel something, right? It's so different, but it makes me feel something. People just thought, that's wrong, so it's stupid, right? And then they came around to it after they warmed up and it became a little more familiar. People got used to seeing it. Same thing with doing pieces like this. You do yours, I do mine. I look at mine and I might say, oh crap, I screwed everything up. It could not be any worse than it is. And you could look at it and say, whoa, and vice versa. And hopefully we love our own pieces as we make them. But if you're going to approach an Impressionist piece, no matter who your teacher is or how well you've read this article or any article on it, absolutely expect, and I hardly ever say this because it's not my philosophy, but absolutely expect to pull pieces out again and again and again until you get it right, because it's just a question of your impression. You could pull out the coral pink because you're like, it's just not right. And you might put in coral with less pink, like almost the exact same color, and say, there we go. That's what I'm talking about, right? And it's got to suit your taste. So be prepared with a rag bag to have lots of strips, lots of leftover colors to play with, because you will want to fool around with color when you're attempting these kinds of pieces. Kathy, good to see you. Tomorrow at your guild meeting, you're having a presenter teach you how to hook plaids. No way. Isn't that a crazy coincidence? Oh, take some pictures if you can. I'll be anxious to hear about it. That must be super fun. It's almost like when I have hooked or painted plaid. I've done a lot of painting and plaid projects in the past. I always screw it up because I'm just not concentrating enough, you know. And with hooking, I'm so used to relaxing at this point that for me, hooking plaid is almost mathematical, or it's like knitting, right? You really have to get it right. There are junctures where you need to make a change. Otherwise, you get something that's all wobbly. You've really got to pay attention more than I'm used to paying attention these days. So I'll be excited to get some top tips. If you can relay some top tips to us, Kathy, that would be a lot of fun. So Frances, another beauty. Anne Hoffman, absolutely stunning. Let me see if I took any more from this article. Yes, I took this one from this article too, because remember, there are some people in this article. I'm seeing some repeats in this article that I've seen before in Rug Cooking Magazine. That's never my favorite when we get repeats because we're talking about an 80-page magazine. And I feel like let's make sure all of the content is absolutely new at 80 pages. That's just my opinion. This piece I've never seen before, and I thought it was exceptional. Luna on a summer day. I just love I love this portrait. This is 23.5 inches by 28 inches, number 3 cut through number 8 cut wool, and a little bit of yarn on linen. Designed and hooked by Susanna, okay, hang on, Pangolinin of Kansas City, Kansas, 2024. I just love Luna. I just love this. I hope this doesn't sound derogatory because I don't mean it this way. It reminds me of, I never see these sort of caricature artists anymore. You know how when you used to go to a city, you would walk and design like which famous artist, was it Monet? I think it was Monet. Yeah, I think it was Monet. Started with caricature. Remember back in the day, I mean, I just don't see this around like New York and Boston anymore, but there used to be caricature artists who would be like lined up on like boardwalks and, busy streets and want to do a picture of you. And incredibly, not knowing you, it was like fortune teller style. These artists, so skilled in looking, right, and observing and getting an impression, right? This style is very suitable to Impressionism because it's about getting an impression. These artists would always look at you and within 15 minutes have finished a portrait of you where they managed to capture, at least for me, always my least favorite features about myself exaggerated. Like they immediately locked into the things that were bad and popped other features, right? But somehow they're like magicians. It always looks like the person, but almost like it's stretched, like Funhouse Mira stretched, but always accurate. You know what I mean? It's almost like, I don't know, almost like they're seeing something different than I'm seeing. It's always amazing to me. And I lament I never see these kinds of artists working anymore. That's what this portrait reminds me of a little bit. I just love the expression. I love the weight of the hair. I love the tilt of the head. I love the color substitutions in the face. It has a real sketchbook quality. I love the way that the face picks up some of the color that's in the background, very sort of intaglio, lots of movement. Luna looks like a record cover. Karen, Luna does look like a record cover. It's just so cool. Luna's wearing like a beautiful kind of heart choker and what looks like a pretty top with buttons. In the sort of frantic sketchbook quality of the background, which I love, and I love how it kind of bleeds in. Maybe that's glasses on top into the hair. I love that I'm seeing like the moon for Luna, the flowers, things in cursive, like lettering in cursive Luna. I love the informalness, right, of the approach with this piece. I just love it. I love the ear. I love the soft kind of squiggle that makes the shape of the earlobe. I just think it's so smart. I think it's smart. I think I would recognize Luna if I passed her on the street. I feel like with this piece, Susanna picked up on. I don't know what the physical likeness is like because I don't know Luna, but I feel like Susanna somehow tapped into her energy, her spirit, her personality. And I feel like that's all there for us to see. And while we're only seeing like the bust, right? We're only seeing like the neck and the head. I feel like I know her based on the energy of the piece and the colors and the expression. It's a wonderful portrait. It's super impressionist style. Sorry, Shock. I do have clothing on. I was having one of those menopause things. Sorry, coming to you in the middle of the winter, looking like this. But, this light is not cool. I just love the personality in that portrait, right? So this article is just fantastic. It is, this is such a hard thing to tackle, and we have seen books on impressionism in rug hooking, and we have seen other examples, and I think that it often seems so hard. I do feel like this is a great article for building a bridge between how is it done, right? All of these people did it differently. I still don't know how to do it. A bridge between that and the practical sort of aspects of, well, this is how you do it, right? This is how you have to do it your way. But if you want to hook in this style, you have to get to a place where you're at peace with like making the jump, where you have to make the jump to the color substitutions. You have to make the jump to like a more kind of a sketchbook style, right? You have to move away. If you're more of a realist, you have to move away from that realism. You have to be prepared to do that. Be ready to jump, because that is the nature of Impressionism. You cannot do Impressionist whether you are a painter, a hooker, or any kind of an artist. You cannot do Impressionism if you are not ready to jump. So the more you read about it, maybe you need to read more or less depending on your personality. The more you read about it, I think the more ready you get to jump. And I think this article takes you much further to the edge of where you need to jump from and makes the jump a little bit less scary and steep, right? Why don't I use the analogy of a jump again? I'm stopping. But you know what I mean. You have to be brave. I'm so thirsty. At the end of this article, there's some useful text that says preparing to hook an Impressionist portrait. I'm not going to read all of these because it's a whole page, but let's read a few of them together. This type of project requires preparation. Don't neglect this step. Every minute you spend preparing will contribute to a successful portrait. So I'm going to add to that again by saying, you want to separate your colors, right? That's the first thing you want to do. You want to lay out a bunch of your snoodle noodles, dark, at least dark, middle tones, light. And if you have it in you, break it up even more. Break it up into 5 if you have it in you. Darkest, dark, dark, medium, dark, medium, 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 light, medium, light, 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 right? That sounded crazy, but you know what I mean. Break it up into, as fine piles, as fine as you can handle without driving yourself nuts, and put them into different see-through bags, right? Different like Ziploc bags so you can see what you've got. And then refer to your reference, right? See if you can get the red film thing. See if you can get a black and white image of your reference. And, and then identify dark, medium, light. Even if you have to take a marker and write over your reference paper, if it's from the printer, right? You printed it out. Take like a red Sharpie or something and write over it, maybe in different colors so you can see it easily. Dark, or just color in the space. This is dark. In case I forget or I lose my mind because I'm so frustrated, this area is dark. And then you know to reach for your darks, right? So absolutely prepare, I think, is important. Here's the second one. Choose a reference photo in which your subject is looking straight ahead. Okay, so this is assuming that you are doing an Impressionist portrait as opposed to, for example, a still life or landscape. If you are doing an Impressionist portrait, choose a photo that is going to be easier to work with. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. If you really want to go for highlights on the face of your subject, you get the best highlights if you look at someone's face. Much harder to get highlights or limited highlights in silhouette. But I guess that only applies if you are doing a portrait, right? Study the shadows and highlights of your photo, before you hook. Be sure that your pattern is accurately drawn, and don't worry if the pattern does not capture a likeness. If you have your subject's features placed correctly on your pattern, you will capture the likeness during the hooking process. In other words, you might have to pull it out 100 times because the glint in the eye isn't in the right place, right? And only you know that, but the glint in the eye is going to be the difference between it looking like your dog or not, right? So these are all good tips. I don't want to read all of them. It's a whole page of them. What a beautiful article, right? What a beautiful article. What a helpful article. So let's move on to the next, and we'll say goodbye to Luna for this moment. We're moving on to another article that really is lovely. It's called A Fleur-de-lis Flourish, Constructing a Complicated Background, Text and Photography by Helen Mar Parkin. The article looks like this, just so you know. Just so you know what we're getting a feel for. If you're thinking those are not hook drugs, these are not hook drugs. So these are images that we're going to use as references, and we're going to walk into this conversation together. So for example, the image that I had up here is called Hiding Under Cakes, painted by Heather Gauthier. And the one I just sort of flashed through of the elephant, the ice cream elephant, painted by Heather Gauthier. So I'm going to start, I'm going to walk you into this article differently. Because this is this isn't a more general subject like let's work in the Impressionist style. This is very specific. So I want to read from it so that you're getting the words of Helen Mar Parkin and you know exactly what she means. So she says, in the summer of 2020, Dawn Moore asked me to hook a portrait of her dog, Molly, in the style of the paintings of Heather Gauthier, a San Antonio artist. Dawn had taken a few workshops in rug hooking and decided it was not for her. She preferred to devote her time to embroidery, a craft at which she excels. She asked me to take over the Molly project. Dawn had discovered Gauthier's whimsical painting of two pugs on a cake stand, that was the one we just looked at, and asked and obtained permission to create a similar design that included her beloved pet. Donna Harkman sketched an initial drawing based on the photographs of the dog, depicting Molly atop a cake stand. So we're going to walk into it here. I think that's enough for the beginning. So what we're talking about in this article, Laura, this is a great issue. Again, it looks like this. This is the issue that's just coming out. You know, once in a blue moon, I see Rug Hooking Magazine at like Barnes & Noble. I almost said Borders. Definitely don't see it at Borders. At Barnes & Noble. Otherwise, it should be, actually, I'm not sure. I don't think it is on Amazon, but it's at Rug Hooking Magazine. So you can always say, hey, I want to subscribe. Send me a copy right now so I get this one too. And back issues are always available too, but this issue is really excellent. So what's going on here, obviously, is, again, Helen is going to take over Dawn's project of hooking the dog Molly, and in the style of a Heather Gauthier painting. Now, these Heather Gauthier paintings, as we've seen, right, at least at this moment, are about sort of cute animals with sweets and highly decorative, repeat, like almost like a wallpaper art nouveau pattern in the background. Boom. Just like that. It is a very specific thing. It's not, we've seen it before, right? But in this case, cute animals with sweets. So this has potential to be a quite complicated project, doesn't it? And it certainly looks like it became a quite complicated project. Now, again, Donna Harkman sketches Molly onto the backing. Oh, that was the elephant I was talking about. That's Heather Gauthier's painting. This will be the finished Molly. So we're going to work backward from this, but this is Molly. This piece is 18¼ by 24¼ 24½, number 3 to number 5 cut, 345, hand-dyed wool on bleached linen, designed by Heather Gauthier. Isn't it funny how we talk in such detail about rug hooking? Because you don't know if this is bleached linen or not, since we can't see any of it, right? Isn't it interesting? We're so specific as rug hookers. Designed by Heather Gauthier, adapted by Donna Harkman. So just to be clear, right, because I'm a bit of a whatever with stuff like this, the stencil, right, is by Heather Gauthier, and the idea of putting a cute animal with sweets is something that Heather Gauthier has done. I would argue that, you know, a cute animal with sweets is not, there is another artist, I'm never going to think of her name, but I have her mugs, and Mom, you have a couple of her mugs where there's lots of birds wearing like fruits as hats, very similar, like a, you know, watermelon as a hat or a coconut shell as a hat, very, very similar. So what I will say is, it seems to me like this exact stencil must have been designed by Heather Gauthier. Let's look at how the thing evolved. And this is a 2022 project because it does look complicated. But at the end of, and certainly Molly is hooked beautifully. She is drawn beautifully. She is hooked beautifully. The ice cream is hooked beautifully. The little cone hat, the sort of display stand, right, the cake stand, very, very pretty. These are all great touches. And color-wise, it really pops. It's beautiful colors. I would bet my life that one of the background colors in this piece is Dharma's Purple Pop. It's just such a unique color. I feel like it's the main color. So let's backpedal a little bit and look at, uh-oh, wait a minute. Sorry, almost deleted that. Hold on, wait a minute. Okay.
Oh my gosh, do you see how cute I am? Ah, I'm so cute.
Molly, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, you little fluffernutter? Look at the fur. Look at the little feathery ears. Look at that sweet, soft face. God, what a cute dog. This is a photograph of Molly the dog. Who doesn't want more representations of Molly the dog around the house? Absolutely beautiful. So I don't want to show you the whole article, but this is how it's done, right? Here's the photo. Donna Harkman does the drawing of Molly the dog on the cake stand in the style of Heather Gautier's Pug Dogs. And then you can see there is some considerable reworking of the pattern because in the case of the pattern, as you can imagine, let me just stretch this open a little bit. From a technical point of view, hold on. From a technical point of view, what you're seeing here, right, is the drawing by Donna Harkman. But the next thought might be, okay, drawing done. Let's get the stencil. Let's get the stencil of the repeat of the motif, right? We're going to call it a fleur de lis, right? So let's get the stencil going. Let's do it. You can imagine that that's not going to work because yes, it's a repeat pattern, but the scale of the background pattern is quite big, right? It's not a diminutive, small little calico, right? That is just going to function as like a neutral. No, this is a big motif. This is a motif, like one fleur de lis is as big as Molly's face. So if you think you're just going to lay out the pattern and just randomly or according to the shape of your border, right? If you're like, okay, put this one in the middle and blah, and it's going to just work like this and it fits evenly and perfectly, it might not work that way because where the fleur de lis fall might kind of might overlap Molly's face or the ice cream or the bottom of the cake stand or the edge of the cake stand. You know what I mean? So it would take some fiddling and finessing. It looks to me like there was, you can see like the transfer of lines, not the marker lines. It looks to me like there was a design that was originally on there and then somebody realized no, it's not in the right place, right? It's not happening at a close enough interval to number one make this read as a pattern, and it's too distracting, right? So that's the thing. Oh, Terry, I'm so sorry I missed you coming on. Super welcome to you. I'm so sorry, so busy running my mouth. Super welcome to you. You are very welcome. Happy Friday night. Happy cocktail night. Happy first cocktail night of January at that. So you want to be thoughtful with stuff like this because you think, good, I got the background pattern. That's one layer done and dusted. And then I've got Molly the dog. That's another layer done and dusted. It's not going to work like that. With a pattern as overwhelming as the fleur de lis in the background, Molly is small and the ice creams are small. And the cake stand is fairly filigree, right? So you have to be really thoughtful and careful about where each fleur de lis falls. It's got to be balanced and even, but you don't want them to be so distracting right near the face to take away from the face, right? So you have to be very careful about the placement of a background design that is this aggressive and substantial and noisy. And you also want to be very careful about colors because obviously with this particular piece, you would want to, hold on, let me see if I have any more of this. Nope. Let's come back here then. Obviously, with this, you would want to pop the colors, and I'm assuming you would want the same kind of color palette that Heather Gautier uses in her pieces. So a little bit tropical, very bright, a little bit of a vintage pattern palette. You would want that, but you do have to be careful. She uses a lot of opposites in her pieces. There's opposites here too, right? The green and purple are opposites on the color wheel. So this is a good color choice. But in this case, you also want to get the ice cream to be, colorful ice cream colors, right? You don't want to end up having to do the ice cream in gray or brown or whatever because there's like too much color. This is just right. This strikes me as just right. And in real life, the fleur de lis is more pink more pink and purple than what you're seeing. It's a much brighter piece than what you're seeing. Again, this is a photograph of a photograph, but when you get your copy, you'll see the colors are spot on. It is extraordinarily well done, very well articulated. It looks like in the text as well as I paraphrase and race through it. I love to see working photographs of stuff like this because, you know, we all, right? If you do your own designing or you adapt commercial patterns, um, if you ever I don't want to say make mistakes because it's not about making mistakes. If you ever change direction or change your mind while you're working on something and change your color of Sharpie on your backing fabric so that you can rework something with your new idea, your new and better idea, just know that everybody does that. Right? Everybody does that. When I work on a pattern like the telling the bees, um, this took quite a few tries, right? I fooled with the legs of the chair. I fooled with the tilt of the bustles, right? I fooled with the tilt of the head, with the expressions, with the placement of the eyes, with the size of the bees, right? I fooled with everything quite a bit because it wasn't just how it works independently, and it wasn't just I like the drawing, let's go. It's how it evolves when you get some of it in and then you get more of it in and you think, that's not the way I thought it would be, right? It's just like life. Sometimes as things roll along, it's not exactly the way that you thought it would be. And you need to make an adjustment of some sort. Everybody does that. Everybody does that in every part of their life. So if you find yourself doing your own designs or adapting a pattern or laying a pattern into the background of something in the style of Melissa Gautier or any artist that you might like, who you may like, just know that if it takes a lot of tries and you've got a lot of different colors of marker happening on that piece, you're doing it right, right? Because that's what we all do. You fool around and you figure it out. And sometimes you're a little too tired. You're not in the right mindset. You're distracted. Something happens. You make the same mistake multiple times. You're still on the right track because that's what all of us do every time. I promise you. So the next article is really another interesting article. For me, this is an excellent issue. I'm really loving this issue. This is called Primitive in Plaid, an oriental design to help clear your stash. Text and pattern by John L. Leonard. Photography by Michelle Leonard. So this piece is by John L. Leonard. The design is also by John L. Leonard. The design is in the magazine. Right here. I love this article. I love the spirit of the article because basically I'm going to read a little bit of it. We're talking about creating your own oriental style rug, right? So sort of your own sort of what Pearl McGowan called exotic rug. It has that kind of Eastern flavor to it, but you don't necessarily need to do it in a super realistic style like a true Persian/Oriental rug. You can do it in whatever style, color you want. If your end game purpose is to use up your stash, then you want to break it into X amount of colors because you got this much of this much of that you want to use. In this case, the purple, blue, and black plaid on the top left. God, I love that. The red over-dyed check. The dark green plaid, I'm going clockwise. The solid blue textured wool. The red, green, and blue black plaid, that's like a black watch. The solid yellow textured wool. The yellow brown check. The yellow and brown with black check. God, I could have used that for the bees. The dark blue, blue green, black red. That's like a tartan. And then finally the medium green plaid. That's a giant window pane type plaid, isn't it? Similar on the top right to the dark green plaid. So if you look at the top right, we've got a dark green and a medium green. So two values of the green. You can see in the rug there are little striations of color. That's probably because the dark green plaid is in there, and so is the medium green plaid. And they really are pretty much the same material, except that the green plaid, the window pane occurs more often, right? It's a tighter gauge of pane, as opposed to the medium, where it's a little bit looser and more open. So let's come back. I'm sorry, I'm coming back to you here. Let's start this article written by John L. Leonard. I've been rug hooking for 22 years and I've accumulated a lot of wool, especially plaids and checks, that I like but never use. Okay, I find that many multicolored plaids are dark, although they may contain some light and bright areas. Those colors are not enough to overcome the darkness of a pattern. That's a great point. A good example is my blue black, okay, so the purple one I showed you, the purple blue black plaid. The purple parts are bright. Let me show you this picture again. So we're looking at the one on the top left, the swatch. The purple parts are bright and light, but the other colors make the wool dark. It's true. There are some beautiful bright colors, but the rest of it is quite dark. He says, however, I have found that these wools work well in oriental rugs, especially primitive ones. I designed a primitive oriental by creating a simple pattern combining ideas from a variety of oriental patterns. I'm quite pleased with the pattern I designed and delighted that my plaids, checks, and other unique wools worked well in it. Also, this rug was easier and faster for me to hook than any other rug I have created. I'm going to not read the rest of the article because I hope that you will get this issue of Rug Hooking Magazine. Again, this is the January-February 2025 issue. I love the idea. You get a feel for the premise, and there's more detail to this article. But by all means, create your own Oriental rug, right? Why not? And John is making some excellent points about using plaids. The very nature of a plaid, right, is that it will change color and it creates a lot of excitement and interest and anticipation while you're using it. But the overall effect with plaids is often unexpected. And plaids and checks and textured materials, more than solids or models, really require you to test them. So if you're approaching a plaid for the first time, you really want to you can pull it out again, but just test hook it. Do like a 1-inch square, just test hook it to see how your colors are going to fall, because unlike other materials that don't have as much color change, you really don't get a good feel for what your pattern will be with a plaid, right? It's always a lot busier and more congested than you're expecting. You look at the plaid and you think, oh, I like all the colors in it. That's going to be great. But then you realize, as John said, there are some bright colors. There's lots of like little stripies of blue and even bright yellow in that plaid on the top left. Lots of purple, but you don't get it on every loop. And you might go, if you're unlucky, you might go many loops without getting any of the colors you want. And it might be that you're thinking, God, let's take it easy with like the black loops, right? I hope I don't get half black loops. And maybe you do get half or 3/4 black loops just because you're unlucky. In those cases, if you start hooking and you keep getting stuck, I'm still looking at that same swatch, and you keep getting stuck with the dark colors or the same color, just cut, right? Cut your strip and start a little bit further along, because a plaid is mathematical, right? If you're in a routine, you're hooking to the same height more or less, you're going to keep catching it at the same pattern. You're seeing the way your loops are popping up: black, 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 green, purple, black, 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 green, purple. You might say to yourself, my God, what have I done? Just kidding. Talking Heads reference, just kidding. But you can stop that pattern by stopping the strip and cutting it and trying again. And the next time you start a series of loops, you might get purple, purple, green, blue, yellow, black, purple, purple. And you might say to yourself, well, I like this cadence better, right? This is much more what I was thinking of. This represents my feeling about this material more than just black, 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 green, purple, black, black, black. So you can control what you get. You can also cut, whether you use scissors or a cutting machine or whatever. You can cut your in the case of that plaid, can't cut it and the strips that you end up with that have mostly black, just take them out of the mix, right? Just remove them from the mix and put them in your rag bag with your darks. You don't have to use them just because they're present in this material. Moving over to the right, to the red overdyed check. Now that's a different story, right? And the one down below, the yellow and brown check with black, that's a different story, because it's like 50-50 colors, right? So you really, if you're using that material, you expect to see both colors pop up. But plaids are a little bit different, and you can fool around and control them in a slightly different way. This is a really fun article, and I say it has the spirit of the craft behind it, because what John did there was write an article about creating his own pattern, number one, right, in the spirit of the first hooked rugs. And he's talking about using materials that he hasn't had a lot of success using, so they're essentially leftovers. He wants to use them now, right? Square peg, circle hole. He's going to use them now. And yeah, and he talks about how to make it work with what are sometimes considered difficult materials to hook with, plaids and patterns, because the pattern is unpredictable. So he's saying try to sort of, you can relegate where these patterns land on an oriental rug because it's a geometric. You can relegate like this color to the border or to the corners or to the circle in the center. And you can really control where the chaos, the noise, the static is with these color changing prints, right? You can control that. In other types of compositions, if you've got a busy material going in the background and you hook half the rug and you think, man, this was a disaster, it's taken all of the emphasis off of where I wanted it to be, and it's all in the background. It's such a loud background. Should never have used a pattern material for it. Geometrics are not a bad place to experiment with these pattern materials for that very reason. So the next article is a solder article. Of course, we're already looking forward to Solder Village in August. I will be with you for sure there. I'm very excited this year for solder. We will have a show there. The next Halloween book, Ribbon Candy Hooking Halloween book, we'll be celebrating The Mystic Carpet, which is the next book coming up, and The Haunted Rug, which came out this past October. And there will be an exhibit of rugs from both of those books, kind of just a survey of both. So I will be there with you doing book signings and speaking, and I will be at that exhibit, and I will be fooling around and having fun with you too. So we're already looking forward to that. Solder put an article in here, the 2024 Solder Award, a tribute to rural artistry and community building. So this article is by Olivia Hennessy. Looks like an absolutely beautiful article. I'm going to show you what it looks like. The Solder Award ribbon adorning the Barn Quilt Challenge. Oh, I see. They're actually barns with, let me show you. I didn't photograph this one because I don't want to cover every article. I love hearing from Olivia, though. Olivia does such good work in writing that I want to really honor and celebrate. It's actually a challenge about barns that contain quilts. So not the quilt that is on the barn, but the barn itself with the colorful wooden barn quilt, right? Which is a painting of a quilt that people affix onto their barn structure or their house. And those things are called barn quilts. They're not actually fabric quilts. So this is a beautiful article about a display at Solder where these, let me see if I can bring it into focus, these barn quilts were all lined up for display. So this was one of the smaller displays, I think, at this past Solder. There are the big, sorry, I'm having trouble focusing. We're getting a little bit closer. Solder always has the larger shows, like my show next year is one of the main shows, right? There's some main shows, but then a lot of people have the smaller shows that represent a group of, I think, maybe 6 or more or something like that. This must be one of those shows. And what a beautiful thing to choose, Olivia, the barn quilts. And beautifully said, a tribute to rural artistry. Because the very nature of these barn quilts is you see them in rural areas, right? We talk about this sometimes. Where are the barn quilts near you? I know for me they're in Hoosick Falls, over the New York state line. But I know there are lots of sort of pockets across the U.S. where you see these beautiful barn quilts on people's houses, and you don't have to put it on a barn, do you? But it's fun to find them, and that must have been an absolutely gorgeous exhibit. Really lovely. Now I'm flipping a little bit further, and we're coming to another great article. It's very different. It makes me realize I need to get the next Design Like book out, because I have a finished chapter in it that's a Design Like Escher. We did Design Like Escher as one of our past Design Likes. In that, a lot of people recently have been buying some of the past Design Like classes that I've done. The recordings are there for you always. Escher was interesting because I put Escher in with other pattern makers, and so naturally we talked about tessellation. Now, what is tessellation? Because this article, this next article, is about tessellation. Let's take a look at this first, right? And then we're going to talk about tessellation. The article is called "A Tessellating Tale: How to Tessellate Like Escher or Not." Text and photography by Vicki Cameron. So this is a fun piece. This is called My Dogs. This is 32 by 28, number 7 and number 8 cut wool, silk, and wool yarn on linen, designed and hooked by Vicki Cameron, 2015. What is a tessellation? A tessellation is a device, right, just as a placeholder, that creates a pattern. It is a repeat pattern, just like tiling, right? Just like tiling on the floor, tiling around a fireplace, just like tiling a repeat pattern, right, that has no gaps, right? That is a tessellation. So in this case, it's a dog. If you have a pattern that is like a fleur-de-lis, and it has a background and there's all these fleur-de-lis, that's a pattern, but it's not a tessellation. When you have a tessellation, you're talking about a shape slash motif. In this case, the motif is the dogs. Let me just define it first, as opposed to a shape. If you're in the stall of a bathroom, sorry, and you're looking down at your feet and there's a tiled floor and you see hexagons, hexes, or some kind of fancy elaborate tile, that's a tessellation. That's a repeat of a shape with no gaps, right? Same thing with the dogs. You can tessellate anything that works. I couldn't, well, maybe I could tessellate this cup. If you could imagine this cup and then one next to it, if this cup could rest against itself, but I'm not going to turn it upside down because my water's still in it, this might tessellate, right? This might tessellate all the way across with no gaps, right? This might tessellate. Would this tessellate? No, right? This would never tessellate. No matter how you got it to cram together, there would be gaps, right? So glasses would not tessellate. Could I create a tessellation with eyeglasses? Maybe. I would have to distort the drawing of the eyeglasses to force the tessellation. Square peg, circle hole. That's sometimes what we do in art, right? Does this tessellate? I hope this doesn't knock down my camera. This is my iron that I use to hold the weight. My camera's mounted to a thing. Does this shape tessellate? It's not going to tessellate, is it, right? It's the shape of an iron. Right? I'm never going to get that to create a repeat pattern with no gaps. So in short, right, layman's terms, that's a tessellation. What we're looking at here is a tessellation. It has gaps right around the edges and at the border when the tessellation is resolved. It's finished. It's not Escher typically did tessellations that went right to the border. Sometimes he didn't. Sometimes he would spin a tessellation or put a shape on its axis and start turning it into spirals and very elaborate formulas. And that was math, right? That was math / science that scientists actually used Escher's work. Tescher's. I just crossed Escher with tessellate. Isn't that weird? Scientists and mathematicians actually used Escher's work, his art, to solve mathematical problems. Like, that's absolutely true, because he figured a lot of stuff out with art, right? So in this case, we're looking at a tessellation of dogs that Vicki Cameron did. God, she did them beautifully. It's just so much fun to look at because your eye immediately says, what's that? And then it starts to pick out individual faces. And then you realize it's a repeat of the face and you're looking at a pattern. But moreover, you're looking at a tessellation because as far as the mass of dogs, if we don't count the background, right, it's a repeat pattern with no gaps. That's exactly the definition of a tessellation. Incredibly, each one seems to have its own personality. Hey, that's art. That's the artistry in this piece. And did you notice in the four corners there's tennis balls, right? So isn't that fun? I also love the way that Vicki did kind of a marble cake in green in the background, right? Almost like grass. Really unusual. Oh, Dee, good to see you. Where'd you get a copy of this issue? So Dee, it's this issue of Rug Hooking Magazine. Rug hooking is most often arrives as a subscription, but I would call them right away because it's just being shipped now. I would call them right away and say, I'd really like to get this magazine. What can I do? Because sometimes you see them in the wild, like at Barnes & Noble, but they're a rare find to find them. I would get in touch with them and ask them, how do I get this? This is where I live. How do I get it? How can I be sure that I'm getting this issue? Because it is an exceptionally good issue, isn't it? It is exceptionally good. So let's come right back here and let's look at yeah, sure thing, Dee. Let's look at the behind the scenes of putting together a piece like this. So this is the behind the scenes. Now, just like the last image that we were looking at, that was built on the Melissa Gautier. I'm sorry, the Heather Gautier, Melissa. Melissa Gautier is on tonight, right? That's why I did that. I'm so sorry. There's going to have to be some hand work on the backing fabric, right? Your pattern it's got to be a work in progress because this is not going to be an easy endeavor, is it? So with something like a tessellation, it essentially is a stencil. So this is what, I'm sorry, wait a minute, I don't want to show you that yet. Hang on, I will come back to that. Hold on, I wanted to show you, I'm surprised, I thought I had this picture in there. Maybe I didn't put it in the right place. But one of the pages shows you the stencil that was used, right? So if you're looking at the top, the hexy shape is the body or the face of the dog. I'm sorry, the hexy shape is the face of the dog. The ears underneath turn into kind of the mouth or lower jaw. This takes some figuring out, right? This takes some figuring out. It essentially, the hexy is still the hexy, but it's cut into two parts. So these two parts together still make this shape. That's the tile. That is the thing that will tessellate. But when you break down the colors into these two parts, you have now got two pieces that make one dog's face. And that will repeat because the shape won't change, right? So the thing about creating a tessellation, and quilters know this already because there are a lot of quilt books on tessellations, very popular form. I think it does not appeal to people who are not quite technical. When you do tessellations, you are always at risk of your piece becoming very busy, just the very nature of the thing. At the same time, right, those maybe are the drawbacks to approaching a tessellation. You have to be very, very careful that your shape can repeat without distortion. And try it out on paper first. Try drawing it out first to be sure that you've got a shape that can repeat without distortion. And if you want a true tessellation, also without gaps. Those are the hard things to think about when you approach. Yes, Hivemind, good one, Crescent Moon. Hivemind, the background is tessellated. It is, it's a repeated hexagon. Absolutely, that's tessellated. In fact, there's another pattern coming out with the Magpie Times, the Busy Bees, that I've done and I haven't shown you yet. I might hook it myself. I'm not sure I have time. If anyone's looking for patterns to hook for this upcoming issue, please let me know. Send me a message to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com because I have a few I'm just not sure I'm going to get to. I've already done quite a bit, and I have some pieces that you might want if you want to help me out with that. Always send me an email. I do have another one where the whole that I'm thinking of right now, and I could really use someone to hook. It has a bear in it, but the background is like a tessellation with tiles, but not all the tiles are present. And that's what creates the prestige of this piece that I'm describing that you haven't seen yet. But in your mind, if you can imagine a tessellation where all of the tiles, your brain sees enough of them that it knows that they're there, but not all of them are drawn. Not all of them are present. But your brain fills in the gaps like a jigsaw puzzle that is missing a few pieces because you haven't put the last pieces in. Your brain fills in the gaps. It recognizes a pattern and it is able to put the rest together, right? Same thing. So I have a pattern in the book, Hivemind, that has a tessellation, and I have a pattern in the book that has a broken tessellation. The tessellation is solid and it's there in the right space, but it's not every shape is articulated. So that's maybe too much for a Friday night, but it's a lot of fun, something to think about. And thank you for bringing that up. That is tessellated, of course. I'm talking about sitting on the toilet, and you have a great example that is actually a link to this video. Thank you. That was a much more classy reference than mine. So I'm going to move forward to the next. Before we leave the tessellation, in this article, Vicki said she showed this example, and she said the workshop teacher's tessellation sampler. So I didn't read the article yet, but I think she took a workshop in doing these tessellations. Marty, welcome and happy Friday night. Great to see you. I think she took a class in doing these tessellations, and this is a sampler that the teacher showed. So showing examples of tessellations. I'm not sure that I would agree that a square is a tessellation in any form, but nonetheless, it's a log cabin, and it does create a repeat pattern with no gaps. For me, a tessellation has got to be in a regular shape. That's the whole point, right? Because otherwise, every brick, right, in the pavement or in a building would be a tessellation. In my mind, the nature of a tessellation is it's an irregular shape. That is the trick. That's the game. but these are cool tessellations. On the left, we've got a repeated house. That makes a lot of sense. And on the right, we've got a repeated, like, kind of wonky house. It's a zigzaggy house, but it's still a house motif. So that's really, really fun. Really, really fun article. Another really fun article. Isn't this a great issue, this one? Now, I'm coming back. Oh, there we go. That's what we were looking for. Sorry about that. Better late than never, right? That photo included the tessellation of the teacher's example of the houses, too. So this is another great article called Yard Sale Yarns by Cody Gallagher, A Tale of Two Skeins. I like that. So this is another great article about making a couple of pillows. Cody is a puncher. About making a couple of pillows using skeins of yarn, 2 skeins of yarn found at a yard sale. What could be better, right? A lot of these large skeins of yarn that you find are like multicolored or color changing. And whether you're a puncher or a hooker, you can off-wind the skein, right? If you've got a multicolored skein, wind until the yellow's done. Cut it. That's a ball. Wind until the green is done. Cut it. Done. I have videos doing this where I get these skeins from big box craft store and just off-wind the one cake into a bunch of balls that are, I remember in one video, I got something like 15 or 17 colors out of one skein. That's a lot, right? That's a lot. And seeing as some of these skeins, most of them are acrylic and they're like, once you've finished fooling around with the stupid coupons, they basically owe you money, right? So that's a good way to go about it. It's a good way to get things done. So Cody found some yarns at a yard sale and managed to do this pillow and a second pillow punching using a number 10 fine punch. These are Oxford punches, and a number 13 fine. So both fines and an assortment of, what am I missing here, of worsted weight wool yarns. So I'm wondering why it's called A Tale of Two Skeins. Let me start reading it because I figured it was made out of 2 skeins, but it sounds like I'm wrong. Hold on. Will this be recorded? This video is recorded, Dee. All of the coffee times and cocktail times are recorded forever. So if you need to go and do something else, this will be here for you later, without a doubt. As soon as I log off, it is on there for all of time, I hope. So yes, big yes. Let me take one more sip. Sorry if you can hear me gulping. I'm like an animal right now in a savanna. I'm so hot and thirsty. Let's just dip into this article so we know what Cody means. Cody wrote, every now and then you go to a yard or estate sale and stumble upon a stash of wool and yarns at unheard of prices. Clearly, whoever was selling Grandma's stash had no idea how much the yarn was worth. They just wanted it out of the house. I'm pretty picky when it comes to buying yard sale yarn. But the stash I came across one June morning came from a smoke-free home, looked clean, was free of moth and bug damage, and was marked at a buck a skein. Sold! I grabbed as many skeins as they had of a few lovely jewel-toned worsted weights and went on my way. I had no specific projects in mind for my finds. They were just something to fill the holes in my own yarn stash at home. Fast forward to April of 2024, I was getting ready to host a little punching at my house for International Punch Needle Rug Cooking Day, and I needed a quick project to put on my frame before guests arrive. I had decided a pretty jacquard-inspired floral a few years back. I had designed, okay. Oh, hey, you coming to say hi? Okay, I'm just paraphrasing. We're having a visitor come in. So I think she's using more than 2 colors. Okay, hold on.
I'm having a sleepover at Dex's tomorrow.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I'm so relieved. I'm hot. I look like I'm a hooker. Hey, look who it is. Look who it is. It's my buddy Teddy. It's my man. I'm so happy for you because if you're joining me later, I'm wearing a shirt. I swear. Because look at me on camera. I look like Lady Godiva here.
Oh no, it's cool. We don't gotta talk about it.
Oh, about your thing with Dex?
Yeah.
Or about my.
It's not even like a fight. It's just
kind of. I know. I didn't say it was a fight. I didn't say it was. We all know the thing where like sometimes you have a friend and you don't hear from them for a while and you think
I might get some water.
Maybe that person is mad at you because it's been such an inexplicably long time and you can't understand why that person doesn't acknowledge you like in the hallways of school. Anyway, I guess it's resolved. So that's good. You got a lot of your buddies saying hi to you, Ted. He's been so preoccupied with wondering what he did wrong, right? Is this like where did I'm being sarcastic. Where does this come from? Because I do this all the time. What did I do? What did I say to make this person not like me? I said to him, Ted, sometimes you just got to let it go. Sometimes you don't get to know the answers. But it seems like it resolved itself. God knows why. But I hope it doesn't happen again. So let's keep going. I want to wrap this up because I think there's one more article we want to look at in this issue. This is a different pillow, as you can see, right? Because the pillow we were just looking at had that dark jewel-colored ground. This is Cody's first attempt at the jacquard floral pattern. Was punched with velvety chenille, novelty yarn, and a creamy white background. She wanted to see how her pattern would translate using a dark background color this time. Wait a minute. Is this written in the third person? Hold on. No, this is written by Cody. Okay, so we're just, she's just referring to herself in the third person. Sorry, that just confused me. I thought maybe I flipped to a different article there for a second. So I have to say, in and of itself, it's remarkable to have success punching with the chenille yarn. I have never had success punching with chenille yarn. So Cody is much better than me at punching. I have to say, I love this pillow. You can see by the texture, when you're able to punch or hook with the chenille/velvet yarns, it does come up in like this little fancy old-fashioned poof. You know what I mean? It's like it comes up looking like a little puff of velvet, like a little breath of velvet each loop. I just love the way that it looks. This is a great article on punching. It goes on for quite a few pages on punching. I have two more articles for you. I have to speed up. These pillows, these jacquard pillows of her own design. So that is a lot of fun. You know, there seems to be like a signature punch article in every issue of Rug Cooking Magazine because there are so many people who punch versus hook and who also do both, right? So why not? Now, the next article is Wanda Care always puts an article into Rug Cooking Magazine. I'm skipping several articles in this issue because of time and because of wanting to avoid spoiler alerts. Gami says, hi, Ted. Sending Gami love to you. He's such a good boy. I'm so happy that he's made up with his friend. He brings it up about 5 times a day for the last 4 months. So, yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good to get some closure on that one way or the other. So this is a beautiful article on color, of course, experimenting with other textiles. So that's a beautiful sort of collage article. Then there's another lovely article by Carol Schuin on transferring patterns, how to copy patterns, older patterns onto, a newer backing. And she is specifically in this article using red dot, which is great. It was for a while, like it was very hard to get the transfer medium that's called red dot. It seems to be easier to get. You can kind of rely on getting it more often. I still use fiber tape myself, and I typically use like plexiglass to transfer. Everybody has different styles, so that article is about Carol's technique for transferring old patterns. When you transfer an old pattern, you don't want to actually put marker on the old pattern and ruin the old pattern. You want to preserve, I would think you would want to preserve the pattern. In the example in the magazine, it's colored, so you extra don't want to ruin it, So that's another one of the articles that's in here that is very, very good, right? I just picked out some of the articles that we were going to go with here. This one is an article that's another punch article that's called Punch It Up, right? That's the feature. And it's called A Cup of Sunshine, 2 coffee sets to help you think spring. Text and photography by Una Walker. Such a sweet article. Sitting here on a cold winter's day looking over gardening books and sipping on my latte in my favorite coffee mug, I was inspired to create a cover for my French press to keep it warm. Coffee is life. Yes, I adore coffee, and for the past years I've been roasting my own beans and enjoying learning about the whole process of making my favorite beverage. So that's how the article begins. It's a full-length article. And she shows you more than one pattern. She shows you 2 patterns for covering a French press, which is what we're seeing pictured here. This is the second pattern. This is the sheep pattern for the French press. And she's got some matching little coasters, little mug rugs to go with it. So this is a great pattern idea. It's got some how-to detail about finishing the edges, right, very easily without sewing, with double stick like fiber quality adhesive tape, right? Tape, not stitches. So she shows you how to finish the edges to get to the right size and attach the ribbons so that you're able to take the cover off your French press. So it's a very practical, I'll just show you a glimpse of what I'm talking about. It's a very practical how-to article, besides being a great inspirational article on making a couple of very pretty covers for your French press or something similar that you might have. Those two patterns are included, as well as the coasters in the magazine. Those patterns are there. So this is the last feature I'm looking at tonight. This is Canadian Connection. This is another very unusual feature. This is by Gwen Dixon, photography by Dolores Brau, Breau, Brow. I would say Bro. That doesn't sound right. It sounds like, hey, bro, but I think it must be. And I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. A photograph in my hooked rug, adding memories to your mats, right? So this is very different. This is one of the, in Rug Hooking Magazine, lately we're seeing more diversity, I think. Thank goodness we're seeing shorter articles again, because that era of 25-page articles for me was like it was like the War and Peace version of era of Rug Hooking Magazine. I like these shorter articles, right? Because what are the chances that if there's 8 articles, you like all 8? Maybe you like 4, right? In this article, in this particular issue, maybe you like more. Maybe you like 2. But if there's only 3 articles, right, that the odds go down significantly. I'm loving the way the magazine is structured these days, and there seems to be a real push to have a lot of punching stuff, some hooking stuff, right? So it's better balanced, but also keeping the Canadian connection, which has been a feature for a long time in Rug Hooking Magazine. And having some articles that are more sort of technical articles that, assuming there's stuff for beginners, but assuming you already know how to hook, what else do you want to do, right? And this is one of those articles in my mind. It's an exceptional article. These are all great articles in this issue. This article literally is about putting photographs into your work. So this piece is called, oh boy, I'm going to screw this up. Kespugwitic. No matter how I say it, it doesn't. I don't think I've got it right. This is designed and hooked by Marielle Poirier, and this is very pretty, very different piece. In this case, the hooked rug is really serving as the vehicle, the frame for the photographs. So, in this case, Marielle obviously wants to incorporate photographs into this hanging piece, right? This would never be on the floor. But they want that fiber aspect to be present too. And she wants to do hooking. She's going to do hooking, but she's going to cut out some places, right? Some negative spots where she can inset photo images. Now, I haven't read this article yet. I haven't had time to really read any of these articles properly, but I'm assuming that the photography has been transferred onto material like cotton. I'm not sure these days what people are using. What was it? What did it used to be? Lasertran. It used to be Lasertran years ago. I don't know if it still is, but I think we've had this conversation. I can't remember what the outcome was, but I'm guessing that the photographs have been transferred onto a textile medium as well. So we're talking about textiles with textiles. But obviously, if you want a piece of art that is that is essentially a landscape photograph of the place that you're talking about, and then have specific photographs within it, it's going to be either a collage style hooking, 100% hooking. If that were the case, and if that were the route that you took, you would be looking at some very, very fine areas of hooking that would be obviously difficult to achieve. This is a great solution if you like the look of a photograph being part of the composition. It's not, in this case, it again is serving as a vehicle, as a frame, right? The background is the frame. You get a feel for this is the place, and these are the things that are happening here or near here. So just a very different idea. This article starts again, this is by Gwen Dixon, starts by saying, Gordy, our guide, directed us, let me come back to you while I read. Gordy, our guide, directed us to walk a path through the dunes. We came up to 4 horses grazing. We crouched down and grabbed our cameras. Suddenly, the horses noticed us and became curious. We ran out of their way. They walked among our coats and backpacks and grazed a little while. We kept a safe distance. The most important rule when traveling to Sable Island is to keep 20 meters away from wild horses. Yeah, I bet. But what a moment, right? What a privilege to be there for this kind of close encounter with nature. Absolutely beautiful moment, experience that you might want to forever capture in a piece for the wall. Well, this is a great way to capture it. If you're a rug hooker, this could be very appealing to you. This piece is by my buddy Remy Levesque, who I think was on earlier, maybe still on. Remy, I just love this piece, My Roots. I think I saw this at Tigger. Is this one of the pieces you had at Tigger? Just love it. Designed and hooked by Remy. My Roots. And Remy writes, My Roots features photographs. Okay, this is in the third person of Remy's family. This rug was the first in a series of 3 therapeutic mats Remy made during his recovery from injuries sustained in a cycling accident. While making My Roots, Remy recalled things he feared he had forgotten because of the accident, memories of stories and events with people in the family. He realized that he could recall those memories. They formed a huge part of who he still is, and his strong, enduring identity would help him recover and look to the future. That's such a sad and worrying but beautiful part of the story. Just the idea of the profile, the head rooted in the ground with this sort of family tree of life or family tree motif, trying to be sure that those memories are still in your memory museum, that they have not been taken from you during the course of an accident. And what great news and what a great relief to know that the memory museum is still intact and none of those pictures are damaged. They're still there. This is an interesting piece. I really love this piece because it's a shaped rug, right? So it's not, I don't mean just a rectangle, but it's not a rectangle, right? It's shaped. It's already got that interest. It's got a silhouette that really draws our eye to the profile. The profile has a lot of strength. It's quite serious. This is some serious you know what, right? Because we're talking about memory loss. We're talking about recovery from an accident. This is very serious. This is heavy stuff. We've got the tree motif, right? And we're seeing the roots kind of grabbing at the ground. It's not quite rooted. The tree is dynamically windswept, or there's a lot of action in this photo. There's a lot of action in the color movement in the sky. There's a lot of action in the tree, right? It's a bit forceful as a composition. Remy says, yes, I had that rug at Solder. Did you have it at Tigger too? All the rugs in the article are a result of a course that you gave to Rug Hooking France. Well, I should have known it. Yeah, because Remy, I was thinking, and I didn't want to say it because I wasn't sure, but I was thinking the first time I saw this technique was when you started doing it. So it makes perfect sense to me that you gave this class. A lot of your rug hooking friends took it, and they are now running with this idea, with this technique, and creating beautiful memories of their own rugs that incorporate photographs of the family, right? Great actual memories from life, not a likeness as you would get by hooking it, but the actual thing incorporated. You had a different one at Solder. Okay. Yeah. It's such an unusual idea. It's such a great idea because we're basically at this point talking about a multimedia collage. And we hardly ever get to talk about, we talk about techniques, like different techniques, multi-materials in rug hooking, but we hardly ever talk about multimedia in rug hooking. Another one of our Canadian buddies is on. Betty Ann Cormier is on. Hello, everybody. Happy New Year to you too, my love, in Quebec City. Great to see you on this Friday night. Happy first Friday of January. Oh, my word. But you know, I just love this because it essentially, you're able to do, with this technique, rug hooking. If you're a rug hooker and that's what you want to do, that's what's in you, you're able to, this is a great idea for incorporating photos of people who you love and you're thinking about, who you want to portray in the story of the rug without hooking them, right? Keeping them intact just as they are. You get a different scale of storytelling, right? The pictures tend to be smaller than the larger picture. And I would guess from me that you have to really think when you're putting together a composition like this, you really have to think about the composition and the placement of the photos, because the placement of the photos are part of the storytelling. In the case of Sable Island, right, the placement is, I think, important. It's very interesting and very new technique. I really like this. I just want to say there were, I thought I had another one. Hold on, close your eyes for a minute. I thought I had another one in here. Close your eyes. I don't want to do, oh, this is it. This is it. What's wrong with me? This is another one that I was thinking of. Same technique, but slightly different approach. So with this example, Mont Saint Michel, this is designed, hooked, and felted and embroidered by Jacques Synth. Oh, I don't know this name. Jacinthe Boudreau. This is Mont Saint Michel in France. I've been here. This is such a scary place to visit because you have to be very well timed if you don't want to get stuck there with nowhere to go. So this is an image of Mont Saint Michel, and sometimes the tide is in and it's kind of covering the ground between mainland. I think that's Saint-Malo right there next to Mont Saint. I think it's Saint-Malo right next to Mont Saint Michel, but. In any case, what a beautiful place. What a lot of fun. It does look like a castle in the clouds off in the distance. In the case of Mont Saint Michel, let me read, because this looks like a different landscape in front of it. Let me read and walk through this together, because this is very farmy compared to what I saw from Mont Saint Michel coming from the Saint-Malo angle. It says, a trip to an ancestral place was the inspiration for Jacques Synth's Mont Saint Michel. Jacques Synth is a descendant of Michel Boudreau, founder of a large Acadian family. Boudreau, right? I'm sorry. You can't answer me because I'm stuttering. Born in 1600 at Notre Dame de Cogney in La Rochelle, France, arrived in Acadia in 1632 to assume the duties of magistrate and lieutenant general of the colony of Port Royal. Jacques Synth's father spoke often of the history of the Boudreau family and its livelihoods of farming and fishing. Therefore, the great attraction to the ocean, coasts, the sea, the pastures has always inhabited me, just like my ancestors of many generations, Jacques Synth explains. Jacques Synth and her spouse visited Mont Saint Michel as part. Okay, I see. So it is layered. So it's the farmland is layered with the idea of Mont Saint Michel. So this isn't a literal depiction of Mont Saint Michel, where it sits in the world. I see. It's like a fusion. It's like a fusion of worlds. So this piece is felted, hooked, and embroidered. And you can see the photographic element of it. I think I've got, let me stretch this a little bit. The photographic element of it is on the horizon, Mont Saint Michel itself, like rising up out of the water. This is very different because what we were just saying, in the case of Remy's piece, that's like the head, the tree, with the placement of the family figures and all these fragmented, scattered memories, right? Disjointed memories. Are they still there? The photographs are part of the storytelling. I think the placement of the photographs is part of the storytelling. In this case, the placement of the photograph is the storytelling again. It's not placed literally in the world where Mont Saint Michel is, but it is placed on the horizon, and it looks like a legit scene, doesn't it? At first glance, it's like, what a pretty view. There's a castle on the horizon, but the castle is the photograph. I think this is so interesting as a technique because it is a collage. And again, as fiber artists, we get precious few chances to incorporate collage into rug hooking. It is not an easy match, right? It's not the low-hanging fruit. You really have to think of ways to combine not just materials, but mediums, right? And this is a collage medium for sure. This is a great way to do this. So this article is great for describing how the process is done and to show many examples of how people who are doing this technique are incorporating their precious photos into a larger hooked composition, creating hooked rugs with something extra. Let me show you. My last photo tonight is a close-up of this particular one because I want to show you. It's one below it, this this little sheep, a close-up of the needle felting and embroidery work in Mont Saint-Michel. So I'm seeing in this piece, I can stretch it a little bit further, but you see there's some just wizardry in needle felting. There's some super, super advanced needle felting, getting incredible effects with long, soft expanses of ground, lots of great color variation. It's stunning. But we're also seeing in the water long stitch, right? So we're seeing needlework, long stitch, these long, literally long stitches, making this wave effect, right? Like there's just a soft ripple in the wave. I can also see a lot of knot work, right? Probably a lot of French knots. Tying the knot, again, more needlework. Tying the knot, bringing it back through, you get the effect of little rocks, like a little bit of a rocky pass there where the sheep might cross over that little bit of water on the ground, which is the rocks. So interesting, isn't it? Such an interesting piece. Let's go back to it as a whole. Let me bring it back down for you and look at it one more time. All of these examples, and again, there are tons of examples in this article. Quite a few people have tried this technique and done very different things with it. And really more in this case than with any other example I can think of. If you are incorporating photographs into a hooked rug, right? So into a larger work, it is such a personal thing to choose the photographs. In the case of the first example, Sable, right? The Sable Island, the story of the horses coming a little bit too close, the wild horses, getting real close-up photographs of them. That is a whole story. That all happened in that one afternoon, right? The story is there forever immortalized as that particular piece. And then Remy's piece, very different, right? It's almost like it's almost like a verb. The piece is almost like a verb, stretching, reaching, grabbing at memory, right? Actively grabbing at memory. It's a very different piece. Grabbing at pieces of stories, of family stories. It's a very different piece. In the piece of Mont Saint-Michel, we're looking at the fusion of worlds, of lifetimes, right? Eras and lifetimes within one family. The pasture land, right, that farming land, and then this French heritage in France at Mont Saint-Michel, putting stories together in this way. It seems like if you're going to incorporate collage into a hooked rug, you have, number one, it's carte blanche, isn't it? But you also have the chance to tell very particular stories without the worry of hooking someone's face exactly right or a pet's face exactly right. If you know you're going to introduce photographic material, then you're really thinking about the other parts of the rug that you can hook, right? And how you can, where and how you can include those photographs to tell the story that you mean to tell. Because it will be an accurate story. It will be accurate like a scrapbook, right? But it will have the added sort of happiness of still being a hooked rug. It's really the best of both worlds, isn't it? So what a beautiful article, Remy. You really put something lovely together here. This is a good article with lots of examples, and I don't want to show you any more because I know a lot of you are getting this magazine, have gotten this issue, and I know a lot of you, based on what we've looked at so far tonight, want more. Well, you're going to have more. It's just extraordinary. This article is just extraordinary. It's so different. Very well done. I'm so happy to see the Canadian connection still as part of our cooking magazine. You know, because there's been a lot of changes lately. And, I didn't even see this last page. I got so caught up on Remy's article. I forgot to look at the last page. First rug on the last page. Let's look at this together now because we still have a minute, literally. First fruits. Text and Photography by Helen Morris. I'm going to show you the image in just a minute. First Fruits, cut wool on burlap, designer unknown, hooked by Helen Morris, Clarksville, Tennessee, 1989. Whoa. There was a time when I would sit on Sunday afternoons after church and lunch with my mama, sister, and aunts doing cross stitch. On one of those Sundays, my Aunt Evelyn mentioned that she had done some rug hooking back in the 1950s. My interest was piqued. And imagine my surprise when, while browsing a bookstore magazine rack soon afterward, I saw Rug Hooking magazine. I immediately bought the magazine and took it to the next Sunday session. In a subsequent magazine issue, there was an advertisement for a rug hooking retreat. We laughed and imagined going, but then thought, why not? Let's go. The retreat was called Castle in the Clouds. Isn't it funny that I just said Castle in the Clouds? Jinx. And was held at Covenant College in Chattanooga, Tennessee, just 3 hours from our home. Spending a week with the teacher, sleeping in dorm rooms, and eating 3 meals a day in the cafeteria became our ritual for the next 11 years. We knew nothing that first year in 1989. We were amazed at the beautiful tapestry rugs being created at the retreat, and no one was hooking anything larger than a number 3 or number 4 cut. Jacqueline Hansen, Carol Casera, Joan Reckwart, Sybil Osica, Shirley Bloom, and others were there teaching fine shading and selling premium hand-dyed wools. During my first year, Shirley Bloom helped me buy this fruit pattern. She brought all the wool. I'm going to show you in just a second. She brought all the wool for me, stood over my shoulder, teaching me shading, as they say. I was hooked after that. I continued hooking in cuts no larger than a 4. When I look at my first rug, I laugh and I see it as a very bumpy technique, but I also see many sweet memories of hooking over the years with family and friends and the dozens of rugs that I later created and treasured. Rug Hooking Magazine. Helen Morris, and a little bit on Helen Morris. You know, I really like this as the last page, the first rug on the last page, because I'm very happy that at 80 pages they stopped doing the recycled, well, at least for this issue, article, where they just took like a canned article from a past issue and just reprinted it in full. I'm very happy to see this pop up in its place. And remember, I think the last issue, there was something about first and last rugs. I like this idea a lot. And let me bring you in close because I want to show you Helen's rug. If you're wondering, is it really dark? It is really dark in the part that it looks really dark. That's not a shadow. Sorry, my green screen is catching the leaves, but it is dark in that spot. And you know, to me, this looks like a great kind of William Morris design. I typically do not like fruit designs, but this seems really, really different to me. Really unusual. Does anybody recognize the designer? This does not look like a Pearl McGowan design at all. But I know that when Helen looks at this, she sees an imperfect or bumpy rug. But honestly, I love this rug. If I saw this at an antique store for sale, I would lose my mind. I would lose my mind. I would absolutely have to have it. I love that rug. I just love it. That is just a gorgeous rug. So needless to say, this is a great issue, right? We've been enjoying this issue all night. This is a great issue. This is volume number 36, number 4, January, February 2025. What an issue. It is 80 pages. We're not talking about a huge magazine at this moment, but I'll tell you, I think this issue more than many past issues for me. It's a very smart collection of articles that I think will hit every kind of hooker and puncher. It's not too heavy in the sort of gallery feel. For me, this issue has, I mean, who cares what I think, right? But I'm just summing it up. This issue has a lot of technique in it. And I think the articles are articles for techniques that you have not seen before. It's showing you enough detail and giving you enough text that you're going to be able to figure out, you're going to be able to run with it. So in that regard, it's functioning, I think, very well as an approachable issue for beginners, but it's also got lots of fun and quirky, different techniques for people who have been hooking. I think the balance is great in this issue. I like to see different chapters with different voices. That makes me really, really happy. It's just it's a gorgeous issue. So I hope that you will enjoy yours as much as I have enjoyed mine. Yeah, it was a great issue. Wouldn't you know it? I just let my membership lapse. I hear you, April. Not every issue has been a home run lately. This one is, I think this is the second issue by the new editor, isn't it? Caitlin Danko. Um, yeah, it is very different. I loved Mark before, before this issue, and he was not a huge proponent of the super, super long articles. Um, so it was like, it's not that I have not liked an era of Raw Cooking Magazine. I wouldn't say that. I would say I have felt like the magazine has been struggling with its identity for the last couple of years, and wrestling with itself, trying to figure out whether it wants to be some kind of a gallery vehicle or a how-to magazine, or if it wants to be crafty, or if it wants to be highbrow. And some of the issues for me, the way that it's kind of landed has been like a sort of uncomfortable mix of both. For me in this issue, this is like the first issue in a while that has struck me just right, where it seems like, yes, it's all of those things. It's confidently all of those things. It's showing you lots of examples of pieces that are very unusual and techniques that you maybe have not thought of lately or thought of yet. And that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to not just sort of give you pretty pictures to look at, but also give you inspiration and some information so that you can get going doing something similar, or your take on what you're seeing here. I think this issue really succeeds in doing that. In obviously every issue for each person is very different. If you had a huge feature in the last issue and you're thinking, oh, she didn't like my feature, that's not the case at all. It's just overall impression. I'm always looking at magazines, whether it's my magazine or this magazine or ATHA. I'm always looking at magazines and books with the thought of, I know that there's a lot of experienced hookers who are going to want to buy this. I know there's a lot of beginners who are sniffing around, who would like to approach. If it's too intimidating, it's too off-putting, that never makes me happy, because I feel like, hey, this is a thrift craft. We want to make this accessible to everybody. We want to show you I was going to say 1,000, but I think I mean million directions you can go with this craft. But you don't want to put people off who are approaching for the first time, because this craft came from a bent nail, right, and scraps of clothing and a piece of feed sack. So yeah, I like it when all of the different styles and tastes are represented. I think this issue also, just as a sideline, has good taste, because sometimes taste is a thing. I look at the articles and I think, well, that's very well done, but it's not my taste, or it's a little bit dated or whatever. This issue is fantastic. Well done. Really beautiful issue. So Mary says, I'd suggest we all give positive feedback to abs. That's a great idea, Mary. That's a great idea, because it's important to not just keep showing the best of the best rugs. It's important to keep showing us how to do things so that all of our rugs can be better and more varied. It's important to let us in, right? Don't just show me things on a wall and I'm looking through the gallery, through the glass windows going, isn't that pretty? But I don't feel that connected to it. It's important to have practical articles like this that are both inspirational and practical, that let us approach, right? Even as people who've been rug hooking, this is a really, it strikes the right chord. And I agree with Mary. We should give positive feedback to Caitlin, and with the idea of saying, please pass it on to the staff. This is very well done. It strikes a very good chord, and I'm happy about the Canadian connection being in there. I'm happy about the different voices. I like the first on the last page. I think that's a great one-page feature. I love the Impressionist hooking. I love the tessellations, right? Just to recap, I love the embedding the photography into your hook rug. There's a lot. I love using your kind of troublesome plaids and patterned materials to create your own pattern for an oriental rug. This is a good issue, man. This is a good issue. Please share your positive thoughts with Rug Hooking Magazine. It's hard for anybody to move forward. Everybody works hard. Everybody busts their It's good to get positive feedback when you've done a good job. That's a great idea, Mary. Thank you. So Remy says, once again, my friend, merci beaucoup. Daria, you are so inspired. You are so inspired. You are so inspiring. Betty, you are so inspiring. You are all so inspiring. I know I'm talking to a camera in this filthy, messy room. I know all of you out there are filled with inspiration, talent, unique set of stories, unique ideas. And just think, we are way at the beginning of January. We have got the whole year, right? Our whole lives. But just taking this 1 year into account, we are just at the beginning. You can evolve all of your great ideas. You can finish those projects that are driving you crazy, right? You have time to think, to choose, to plan, to rest, to enjoy everything in turn, everything in its time. This is your year. Grab it. Grab it before it slips by and you say, God, it's March and I haven't done a thing yet. Grab it now so that you cannot say that in 3 months or 6 months. So happy to be here, at least for the last part. Thank you for everything you do. You are so welcome. I am so happy to be here too. I'm so happy to have all of you on. Suze, Happy New Year to you too. Again, the shows are always recorded, so you can come back to it later if you joined late. I'm going to log off because I've got some orders to get out. I'm going to be busy working on some other stuff, but I will be back with you on Monday. In the meantime, I am finished putting together the Friedensreich Hunterwasser class. I'm reaching. This is the book I was most recently playing with. That's why it's still sitting on my table. I love Friedensreich Hunterwasser, the Austrian painter, architect, activist, an amazing, amazing human being. I am finished putting this Design Like class together. It runs on Sunday and again this coming Wednesday. If you are looking to create your own designs and you would like to do them in the style of Friedensreich Hunterwasser, I think I just flipped through several nude photos of him, but he looks wonderful nude, so it's okay. You will be very inspired by his beautiful colorful work, his motifs, his philosophies, his ideals. He's the perfect person to start us off in January of 2025. So if you are not signed up for the Hunterwasser class, be thinking about that because you can sign up for it. You can jump in Sunday or Wednesday or both. Sure thing, Rita. Great to see you. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I will be with you on Sunday for Hunterwasser, and I will be back with Coffee Time on Monday. I will look forward to both of those times. See you then.